Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Surviving Out of Spite. My name is Smith Sauer, and I'm your host. In today's episode, I got to sit down with my friend Izzy, a chronic illness warrior, a marathon runner, and an awesome self-advocate. In our episode, she opens up about navigating multiple chronic illnesses while training for endurance events like the Berlin Marathon, and what it really took to reframe her mindset from limitation to possibility. She shares with us some challenges behind her long-distance running with complex health issues, how she built a support network, and why self-advocacy became a non-negotiable. Together, we explored the power of focusing on what is possible rather than what isn't, and how determination and mindset can redefine what strength looks like in a chronically ill body. Stay tuned. All right. Well, hi, Izzy. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. I'm very excited to learn a little bit more about you and your story and about your most recent accomplishment. So if you want to give our audience a little bit more about you and your journey with chronic illnesses, we would love to hear it.
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. And yeah, I'm Izzy. I am a chronic illness warrior myself. I have 3 different chronic illnesses. I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have dysautonomia. I have 2 different forms of dysautonomia. So POTS, which is very, I feel like, heard of about these days, but then there's other types as well, like orthostatic intolerance. And then I also have a back condition called Britolati syndrome, which is quite rare. Many people don't know about it, but basically, little fun fact, my L5 and my S1 vertebrae are actually fused, so it actually creates a lot of pain. But my whole journey, I guess you can say, started when I was seventh grade. I don't remember how old I was. Maybe like 13. I think I was around 13 years old. And like it
Sounds
was like
about right.
Yeah. I think it was just like from one day to the next, I started having all these symptoms. It was like all this chronic pain. And at the time, I was a competitive horseback rider, and it was like my passion. It was a thing that I thought I was going to do professionally. I was like, this is my thing. I loved it. It made me smile from ear to ear, like every single time I was on the horse. And then one day it was like, why do I have so much knee pain? Why do I have so much shoulder pain? Why can I like not even get on the horse right now? Like my back pain is so bad.
Yeah.
So that was the first few signs. And then it ended up being like a ton of gut issues where I started dealing with a lot of bloating. That was like my worst symptom. And I started having different like issues with like bowel movements and a lot of belching and all these other symptoms. And I was like, well, why am I having, like, I can't even like pinpoint it to a different food. Like I'm having all these issues. Um, and it got to the point where I slowly started to decline to the point where I like couldn't even walk upstairs without horrendous pain. And I started seeing all these different doctors, and I was like, why is no one helping me? Why is no one understanding what I'm going through? And like luckily I was able to see some top-notch doctors, but these top-notch doctors were the ones that told me symptoms are in your head, or there's nothing that we can do for you. Yeah. And as
We
someone
love when
who
that happens.
Yeah, literally. And as a girl who was a young teenager, these are very influential years of her life. Like, I was so self-conscious of all the things that I couldn't do,
I bet.
of like how my body felt and how it was looking in different clothes. And it was incredibly frustrating because at the time people aren't nice, right? People like to pinpoint things when they should really just keep their thoughts to themselves.
That still happens in adulthood, and that is still a
Yes.
good rule to follow.
Yes, 100%. And that really, really has impacted my trajectory in life, I would say. Like, from that moment on, I realized I'm going to be my biggest advocate. Like, I have to be my biggest advocate because there's people out there who have these degrees, but at the end of the day, they're not actually helping me. And if they're not helping me, they're probably not helping other people that are struggling like me. And so then from that point on, I was like, hey, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be on a mission for the rest of my life to be that person that helps individuals that go to doctors. The doctors say, we don't know what's wrong with you, or they hand you a prescription and they say, have a good day. And you're kind of just there like, well, what's next, right?
Yeah.
I am that person now. And I I think there's many different paths that you can take to become that person, but I decided to go down the coach path, and the registered dietitian path, and hopefully one day future clinical psychologist. But the reason for that is that I truly believe that health is very multifaceted, right? And I also believe that health is something that you should have someone else like guide you through the steps rather than seeing someone for 15 minutes and saying, have a good
Yeah.
day, figure it out on your own, right? Or like
Mm-hmm.
some doctors don't even give you a paper with like instructions. It's like a quick little chat and then they're like, hey, get out of my
Good
office.
luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
um and so that is why I established my own business, which is called Steps to Perseverance. It's an online coaching program for individuals with chronic illnesses or for people that have symptoms that don't have a diagnosis right now, but they are like, hey, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to help myself. Can someone please help me? I'm
Yeah.
your go-to girl. And so it's personalized exercise, nutrition, and functional medicine protocols. And of course, with all of that also comes mindset. So we work
Mm-hmm.
on all of them interconnected. It's super hands-on. It's super like community oriented. We have a great group of individuals that are in the program who are all on their health and wellness journey while having chronic illnesses or while having symptoms that don't have like an answer to them right now. And we do a ton of root cause analysis. So we do a ton of tests that insurances don't like to cover,
Yeah.
because it's not most profitable for them. and and then we understand how the body is connected. And it's so, so, so freaking cool when I sit in a room with an individual and their eyes widen because we're in a room together for 45 minutes to 60 minutes. When I say room, I mean Zoom room.
Yeah. I
um,
getcha.
and we're in a room together for 45 to 60 minutes and their eyes widen because they're like, oh my God, you explained that? Like no other doctor has been able to explain that and is one of
Yeah.
the best things ever. And I've had so many wins with my clients. It's incredible to see how far they've come. But
Yeah.
that is
That's
like
amazing.
a 360 view of who I am, my journey, where I am now.
Well, there's one accomplishment in there that we didn't really touch on yet, and it's actually what connected me to you was the
Yeah.
fact that you are a runner, and you are not just a runner, you are a badass marathon runner. And not just a badass marathon runner, a badass marathon runner who just PR'd the freaking Berlin Marathon.
Thank
So
you.
with you sit there and you see people and you're like, oh, you don't kind of want to be like, you're such an inspiration, but like, because sometimes we get a little stuck in that inspiration porn in the disability sense of the communities, but you know it truly is so amazing to see what you've been able to accomplish and to really take all of the difficulties and funnel all of that into helping people and helping yourself too. So you can see your mindset growth. We can see your, physical adaptations to running and lifting with these chronic diseases, which
Yeah.
anybody with any chronic illness knows that trying to do physical activity when you're sick is so difficult. You add your particular concoction of diseases, it is incredible. It's even more incredibly difficult.
Wow.
So I would love if you could talk a little bit about how that went for you, especially since you were able to PR the race and how great that was.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yes, I just ran my fourth world major marathon. So that was Berlin, and I ran a 3:28 marathon, which was incredible.
Amazing.
Like that was my goal to do a sub 3:30, and I hit that. So I was really happy, especially with the conditions. It was really hot, and I was actually really nervous because if you
Yeah.
know anyone with like POTS or any kind of like dysautonomia, extreme heat is not your friend. But we did it. We prevailed, and it was one of those scenarios where after the marathon, you just want to like hug your body and be like, you know what,
Hmm.
you freaking did that. Like, thank you for supporting me through
Hmm.
that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but to touch on what you were talking about, I should definitely talk about my athletic journey. I think to how I
Hmm.
got from like not being able to walk upstairs to now being able to run marathons.
Hmm.
But I would definitely say going back to what I was saying before about the advocating for yourself, I started to realize that I would have to do my own research, and I would have to
Mm-hmm.
understand, what do I need, what works for me, what doesn't work for me, etc. And so I did a lot of research and found out that, hey, even though exercise feels really hard right now, that's actually the thing that I need, because my joints are hypermobile. My joints are
Mm-hmm.
very wiggly, or they like to pop out of place. And the thing that's going to support them is muscle. And right
Yeah.
now, like I didn't have a lot of muscle in I had a lot of muscle in my legs because of riding, but in terms of upper body, that was really hard. And so my hips and my shoulders are the four joints that sublux the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something where I was like, okay, I need to learn how to be really, really, really intentional about the movements that I'm doing, understanding the muscles in the different parts of my body, understanding
Yeah.
why those muscles are important and how those muscles function, etc. And understanding like why they need to be strengthened in relation to my medical condition, right? And what's so cool is that, yes, strengthening is really great for supporting my muscles, or sorry, for supporting my joints. But in terms of dysautonomia, it's actually really helpful when it comes to blood pooling. You want to have really strong legs. You want to have a lot of muscle in your legs to
Yeah.
help with blood pooling. Um, and so because of all of that, strength training, I say to this day, is the number one thing that got me to where I am today. It was
Mm-hmm.
the day in, day out, doing it even when I didn't want to. I remember telling my mom, I was like, even if I tell, because at the time I was in like beginning of high school, I didn't know how to drive yet. Crazy to think about those days. um, um, but at the time, I remember telling my mom, I was like, even if I tell you I don't want to go, still drive me to the gym. Like, and just
Yep.
sit in the parking lot for like 10 minutes. Let me just do my thing for 10 minutes, and then I'll just get back in the car. But even if I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to, like, just still drive me,
Yep.
right? And it was that thing. And like, I didn't start at the gym, I started at home, right? And then I realized, like, hey, if I really want to continue to really make some progress, I should lift some weights, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where it was. And then slowly but surely, I started to get stronger. My joint pain started to really go down, which was incredible. And I started fainting less. And
That's amazing.
yeah, and blood pooling stopped happening. So it was incredible, honestly. And again, I do want to preface, I think that it's so easy to see someone and be like, oh, like, she's saying it from this perspective now. It must have been so easy for her, or like it should have just happened in like a year, let's say. But really, it took me years, right? Like, it was day in, day
Mm-hmm.
out, putting in the effort, doing it even when I didn't want to do it, like knowing future pacing myself, honestly, and understanding, like, if I put in the work today, even if I don't see immediate results, I will see results down the line. That is the thing that literally got me to where I am today. Um, so that's the whole exercise side.
Hmm.
And in terms of like where I am today, and it started with the strength training, and then I switched high schools. And in my second high school, we had to be part of a sports team. And at that time, I was like, wow, well,
What do I do?
contact, yeah, all contact sports are a no-no. And so I was like, I guess I'll try running. At the time, both of my sisters really liked running, but they weren't really into any races. It was like cross country,
Mm-hmm.
like 3 to like 10 miles, I would say. Um,
So casually, like 3 to 10 miles. Like,
well, yeah. And I kind of saw them and I was like, nah, I'm never going to be a runner. Like, I was a horseback rider. Like, that was my thing. And
mm-hmm.
then I signed up and I ended up being the fastest girl on the team. I guess I had just built a ton of endurance, and the strength training had really helped me. And what's really cool, and one of my favorite things to talk about, is that I could only run 3 days a week, max 3 days a week, including the meet, right, on the weekends. And what I want people to realize is that just because other people are achieving a goal in one way, that doesn't mean that you're going to
Mm.
achieve that goal that way. It doesn't mean you have to achieve that goal that way. So what I
Yes.
did was I would do my runs twice a week with the rest of the team, the meet on the weekend. And on the other days that everyone else had practice, I would wheel out one of those stationary bikes. I would sit on that stationary bike and I would do my steady state cardio, something that wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
impact my joints, like wouldn't hurt my joints. And I would cheer everyone as they ran around me. And it was that and strength training, and then still putting in the few reps that I could when it came to running, that then ultimately got me to be able to do or be the fastest girl on the team, right? And so It's funny, my high school coach still follows me until today, and every time I do a race, she reaches out and she's like, "Oh my
Hmm.
God, I can't believe that you're doing that." And it's so beautiful. But that really sparked my love for running. It was that random bout of you
Yeah.
have to do a sport, choose something. I couldn't choose contact sports, and I got into running. And then for those that don't follow me and that don't know, I actually went to undergrad in Boston, and I now am Boston based. I love it here. Boston has my heart. Um, and there are so many colleges here. And when I was in college, I wanted to continue to be an athlete of some kind, but my freshman year, I wasn't a collegiate athlete. And I still wanted to be active. And I think that's really hard for people when they do that transition when they're on their own. They kind of lose sight of like, well, like what now? Um,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of trying to figure out how do I take care of myself in a new environment when there's so many people around me that seem like they're judging me, but really they also don't know what they're doing. And it's just like it's a big, hard transition period, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No one knows what they're doing, even
yeah.
now. Adulthood is a lie. It's a lie. No
I
one
love
knows what
that.
they're doing.
That is so true. So true. I actually made a goal for myself when I was an undergrad my first year to run to different schools that were in the area. So I would say, okay, like I went to Towson undergrad. So I would say, okay, I'm going to run to Northeastern this weekend, or okay, I'm going to run to Berkeley this weekend, or things
Hmm.
like that. And eventually I kind of just kept going with the paces, and my long runs kept getting longer. And it was one of those things where I just felt so happy and aligned when I was running that I
Yeah.
just continued to do it. And it was just a fun hobby rather than something that I had to do in high school. It was something that I wanted to do and I got to do. And I had gotten to the point where I was strong enough that I could continue to do it. Right. So that's my little running spiel. And now I
Yeah.
am running marathons around the world. And for those of you who might be wondering, like, how did you get into marathons from running like 6 miles on the weekends? Um, I would say I found myself in Boston. And I would say I found myself here in the summer between 10th and 11th grade of high school. And I say that because part of my mission when I was saying before, where I vowed to myself I would be that person that would be involved in the research, would be the person that would advocate for other people, to be the person that would help these other individuals that were dealing with chronic illnesses. I actually reached out to 30 doctors across the US and I asked them, hey, do you have any spot for a high school intern? I want to do research in these fields. And it happens to be that the head of neurogastroenterology at Massachusetts General Hospital at the time said, yeah, Izzy, we'll have you. And so I've been doing research with them for over 6 years now.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I've done a lot of research in neurogastroenterology, so that includes like irritable bowel syndrome, functional dyspepsia, functional constipation, idiopathic gastroparesis. Um, a lot of GI stuff, and I've also done stuff when it comes to eating disorders and feeding disorders within a GI population. So a
Hmm.
lot of those conditions include like anorexia, bulimia, and then as well something called ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive food intake disorder. Um, and because I felt like that was the beginning of my spark in Boston, and then I went to college in Boston, I was like, you know what? I feel like the best way to give thanks to the city where I feel so whole and like I found myself, and where I really feel like my my ability to do things again has really
Hmm.
flourished, is running the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
And that, everyone, was my first marathon that I ever ran. And it was one of those things where a random team that I was following said they had a random open spot open up, and I was like, that is mine. I don't care what I need to do. That is mine. This is the universe telling me to just do it.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and my form of training was very not conventional. I was not running that often. I was doing cardio though. And I ended up finishing in a 3:58 marathon. So that was Boston.
Still impressive.
Thank
Like,
you.
if you're like still this, and I'm sitting here like, how do you run that fast? Like,
It
yeah.
was It was, you know what's funny is that I actually finished that marathon and I was like, yeah, that was great, but I'm never running a marathon again. Like
We've all done that. We've all done that. You finish it and like you're stuck in that space of like, I'm so proud of myself and that was amazing, to I
Mhm.
hate it and I'm never doing that again. And then
Yeah.
somehow you end up with like 6 new pairs of sneakers for your new
Mhm.
training cycle and like 7 more races that you signed up with. And you're like, how did I get here? I don't know.
Yeah.
You go blind. I don't know. It's happened to all of us at one
Yeah.
point or another.
Yeah, I've heard people describe it like giving birth. I am not a mom, but where it's like one of those things where it's like the worst pain imaginable, but then you're just so happy with a kid that you like forget about the pain. I think
Yeah.
like that's literally running. It's like when you're going through these races, you're like in a lot of pain. And then as soon as you finish, it's like all that pain
Yeah.
goes away and you're like, oh my God, that was so fun. Next one.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
literally
Yeah, it's
yeah.
so interesting to try to do like, running in general is hard. Running is hard for normal people
Mm-hmm.
and people who don't have these extra things that they have to consider. And I know
Mm-hmm.
for myself, my current training cycle is so different. A, because I was really out of running shape when I got started. And B, my gastroparesis symptoms have been more difficult to manage. And then adding in like the insulin timing and things like that, trying to manage that, I'm like, this is so much math and just I can't like there's no formula for this. It is a fly by the seat of your pants and just hope for the best. And
Yeah.
some days, like a few weeks ago, I went out, I'm like, oh, my blood sugar was stable the whole time. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it was way too high. But then I went out the next weekend, did something different, and it just hung out the whole time. And I
Yep.
only had to swallow throw up maybe once instead of like 4 times. So, it's kind of like you don't know what's going to happen. And it's so hard to figure out. Like, I imagine you have felt this multiple times where when something is flaring or you feel something a little different, and you're like, do I push today? Like, is this a
Mm-hmm.
pushable feeling or is
Mm-hmm.
this a rest feeling? And I don't know about you. I usually don't find the answer to that question until I've done the wrong thing.
Yeah, you know what? I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought that up. I think, especially with chronic illness, even without chronic illness, everything is about trial and error and
Yeah.
becoming really hyper aware of what your body is feeling, right? And I think that in today's society, a lot of people actually have lost sight of what you are feeling, what their body is
Hmm.
feeling, purely because we live in a society, especially in the US, where it's like, go, go, go. Put your head
Hmm.
down, work hard, ignore the like
Yeah.
symptoms that you're feeling, ignore those emotions, just keep going. And I think that that is one of the most detrimental things that you can actually do for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I always talk about with my clients is like, hey, when you were in a scenario that ended in a flare or that ended up in a, let's say, a decision that wasn't aligned with your goals, like
Hmm.
what happened 2 hours before? What happened 1 hour before? What happened right before you made that decision, right? And then same thing on the other end where it was like, how did you feel an hour later? How did you feel 2 hours later, right?
Hmm.
And then understanding and having my clients become aware of like, hey, like there is so much that goes into your decisions and how you're responding. And then when you make yourself aware of that, in the future, the more reps you put in like that, you're going to subconsciously be able to do that. You're going to become
Hmm.
really in tune with yourself and you're going to understand your emotions way, way, way better. Um,
Yeah.
so that's something I always talk about. But in terms of what you were saying, I have a rule with myself, and it is something that I always mention to my clients too, where it's like if I really don't feel like doing something, if I feel like maybe I'm not sure if this is the right thing or the not the right thing, I always say just try it. You don't need to finish it, right?
Yeah.
But just try it. And also, another thing that I'm a huge advocate for, modify. You
Hmm.
don't have to do something exactly the way it's written. Showing up for yourself is still showing up for yourself. And so
100%.
for me, like if I am having a really bad pain day, let's say, which I really don't deal with those anymore, which is incredible. But every once in a while, if the weather is really bad or like it's really rainy or really humid, I sometimes get some nagging pains in my joints. And on those days, I very much listen to myself and I say, you know what? If I have to walk some of these intervals or in between intervals, that's fine. I don't need to run.
Hmm.
Or sometimes I change my interval runs to steady state because
Hmm.
that's the thing I need right there, right? And
Yeah.
what's incredible is that sometimes a push-up, you can do it on your knees, right? If for whatever reason, a regular push-up, you're not feeling it that day, do it on your knees or on the wall, use the wall, right?
Mhm.
And another scenario I always give is like, you can do 5 minutes of something, right? You can do 1 minute of something. If you do 1 minute of something and you really feel like it's not the thing to do, just stop. You did 1 minute.
Yeah.
You still showed up for yourself. You still tried instead of just throwing in the towel, right? You
Mhm.
still tried. And that's what matters. And then
Yeah.
eventually you're going to keep putting in those reps and you're just going to keep proving to yourself that you can do it, even when you feel like you can't, or even when you feel like you don't want to. And over time, you're going to be like, okay, like one, now I know how to read my body better. But two, now I know that I can do it, even when I feel like
Mhm.
I can't do it. Right. So,
Yeah. That mentality has been my entire current training cycle because I'm like, if I don't try, I don't know if I can do it. And there were a couple long runs that I went to go do with my husband, and I'm like, something would happen. I'm like, I only got 3 miles in, and they were slow and they were miserable, and I didn't like it, and I was hurting. But at least I got in 3 miles. I got
yep,
something in, better than nothing. And,
yep,
I get to a point where now the miles are longer. I'm on my feet longer, and I'm like, I've been out here for an hour. I've been out here for an
yeah,
hour and a half. I'm pushing 2 hours. Like, I am tired. I do not want to do this anymore. And recently, something that's been helping me when I'm like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. Why do I do this? I'm like, nobody's making you do this. You get to do this. And that
yes,
mindset shift for me in these last couple weeks has been such a huge help, where I'm like, you get to do this. You get to do this. No one's making you do this. No one is making you be out here except for you. So,
yep,
if you want to bitch at somebody, just bitch at yourself, because this is what you get to do. This
uh-huh,
is what you are choosing to do right now. And it's really been
yep,
helpful, especially because, with what you deal with, what I deal with, and many other people, like, we all know at any moment something can flip completely. And it's not pessimistic, but all of the gains, all of the things that we've worked for and accomplished can just go away because
yep,
something happens, and then we have to pivot. But I think one of the beautiful things about adapting in exercise and running, and that, because you talked about it so well earlier about how the mindset really plays such a role in reading
yep,
your body in regard to just chronic illness, to exercise as well, that's how we get through those situations. And that's what's taught me how to pivot during the really tough times, how to have that mental toughness to say, okay, what's the next step? Do I modify, or do I stop? Like, is
yep,
this going to kill me if I keep going, or do I have another minute in me left? And if I have that minute, I'll give that minute everything I've got and then come back. But
uh-huh,
I I know, and from the community, people ask, you probably get it all the time. It's like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't
yep,
know. I just do it. Like, I really, there is no secret sauce here. It really truly comes down to, like, how bad do you want it?
uh-huh,
How much are you willing to let go of what you think accomplishing this has to look like
yep,
versus what it needs to look like in order for you to accomplish that? And where is your mental resilience in the, maybe the not now mentality? Like, this is my half marathon that I'm training for right now is my first one in 4 years.
yep,
4 years I wasn't able to run. I kept trying. I kept trying to go
yep,
out there, and I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And
yep,
then eventually I just was like, I'm just going to keep trying. And I kept trying for 4 years, and this time
yep,
it clicked just a little bit. It clicked, and it's clicking. But
yeah,
we get so caught up in the just what we think it has to look like, what we think this has to be, how it has to look. If I do it slower, does that make me less of, an athlete? I walk on my runs all the time. It
yep,
doesn't make me any less than anybody else. If you have to, like you mentioned, changing your intervals to steady state, doesn't change anything except what you happen to be doing that day.
yep,
And it's really just that continuous mindset of showing up for yourself that translates into so many other areas of your life that
uh-huh,
really, I think that's why I love talking about this with honestly anybody that'll listen. But
yeah,
really
yeah,
connecting with people that get it, because you
mhm,
realize, like, you're showing up for yourself here, you start showing up for yourself everywhere. You start
Yeah.
adapting better. You start thinking like you have these shifts that all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? And you're like, oh, so that translated over here into
Mhm.
this life over here to that. And now I'm advocating for myself a little stronger. Like I have more toughness to me. I have more of a badass attitude, which you should. Like you ran a freaking marathon. You should have a badass attitude. And it's just,
Yep.
I hope that as we talk about more chronic illness and exercise and maybe doing the unconventional thing where people assume like you have EDS, so you're never going to run a marathon or you're never going to like throw weights around and you're just like hold my beer,
Mhm.
so I want more people to see that these things are possible. It's just not going to look like how you thought, and that we can continue to guide people into making that a possibility for themselves.
100%. And I want everyone to also realize, like, when it comes to marathons, where I was saying before, like, when I was on the cross country team, I was only running 3 times a week. I still only run 3 times a week. Like, that hasn't changed, guys. I am still running 3 times a week and doing my strength training and my cross training on the bike because I know what works for my body. And I
Yeah.
have still achieved incredible results with having to modify, right? And it's by
Hmm.
focusing on the positive of what I can do instead of focusing on the negative. And I think I love that you touched on that because so many people focus on the negative, and it breaks my heart because I think we are actually hurting ourselves when we are constantly
Yeah.
thinking about the negative because you think about the way the brain is structured or like the way it works, right? Like the more negative things you talk about, that's the thing that's going to subconsciously come into your brain rather than if
Yeah.
you are like consciously telling yourself positive thoughts or looking at like glass half full instead of half empty kind of situation, even if it wasn't the favorable outcome that you wanted, right?
Hmm.
That is going to translate to subconscious thoughts that are positive. Um, and that's what I want people to realize is that, yes, there is so much unfairness when it comes to chronic illness. There is so much of I can't, or I have to modify, or I have to do all these things. And we all look at it as a negative thing. But actually, it's a positive because one of my favorite things is actually reflecting. Like, I think with chronic illness, we live a lot in the past, right? We think it's like, oh, well, it didn't used to be this way, right? But what
Yeah.
about recentering or refocusing that to what can we do? Like, what's this present? Like, what is future you going to do? Like, future pace yourself. What is it that you really want to do? What do you want? Where do you want to be in 6 months, in a year, right? And what are the steps that you need to take to be able to get there, right? And when you ask yourself that, and when you really break it down for yourself, you're gonna realize like you have everything right in front of you that you need to be able to make those steps. The
Yeah.
only thing holding yourself back for the most part is you and your brain, right?
Hmm.
It is the way that you talk to yourself. And from there, when you are able to stop yourself when you're having a negative thought and then literally re-say it to yourself again, but say it in a positive way, like all that is helping you get to actually where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
And like I know that this is something that I work on with my clients all the time, and it's something that I like have them pause every time they say something negative. I'm like, no, 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 rewire that, re-say
Yeah. Yeah.
that. But it's incredible what having a positive mindset and like positive uh will, I guess you could say,
Hmm.
does. And I also want people to realize that I am not some perfect like always happy, rainbow sunshine kind of girl. Like I also have days where I am really frustrated at the world, but I have a rule for myself. I don't think I've ever talked about this before, like openly, but I have a rule for myself. Um, where when I get a new diagnosis or when something happens, like every time I've gotten injured, I let myself cry and dwell for a day. I give myself
Hmm.
1 day. I'm like, you can have the biggest fit in the world, but only for today, okay? And then
Yeah.
tomorrow, you're gonna take action on what you can do instead of what you can't do.
Yeah.
And that always allows me to have the space to just feel like literally every single bit of grief or frustration, etc., that I need instead of pushing it away, right?
Hmm.
And then I go and I future pace myself and I am very present in terms of like, okay, well, this is what I can do. Let's take action like this for now.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the other thing that I love to tell myself is that when something goes wrong, it is for now, it is not forever. right?
Mm.
You can very much get so stuck in dwelling, but when you realize that something's not going to be forever, when this isn't going to be what it looks like in a year or 5 years or in 10 years, like it can actually get you really far. And so if you
Yeah.
can focus in like just the next week, like what can you do in just the next week that can help you or that can get you to whatever, like one step closer to whatever
Hmm.
goal you want, like that's what matters, right? And I think that's really important too, is I think we, again, like we really focus on the past and we're not so present focused or future pacing or future pace ourselves. Bad grammar, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
um, and so, yeah, that's the biggest thing I see on chronic illness or people with chronic illnesses. And I see it all the time. It's like we're stuck in the hospital. It's another bad doctor's visit. And we give so much power to doctors also. And I do want to hold space for anyone that works in healthcare because it is not easy. And there are a lot of rules
Yeah.
that they did not decide that were put there that they have to live by. And so I do, I do want to give space for that. But at the same time, like we we need someone to also help people to future pace and to be present instead of just
Yeah.
telling them, I don't know, right? So that was a
Yeah, there's
little.
no, no, that's one of the things that we've talked about here a lot, and I do it myself, is like when something falls apart, like you have every right to throw yourself a pity party. It's fine. I mean, I learned the hard way that by not doing that for myself and just being like, it's fine, like this is happening, this is fine, everything will be fine. Maybe it will be, but if I don't acknowledge like how shitty something is or the situation that I'm in, those emotions, that feeling comes out somewhere else. And it comes out in a place that I wasn't prepared for it, in a place I didn't
Mhm.
want it, and a place that I sure as hell didn't need it. So, in a very similar way to you, I will let myself just let it out. I will feel angry. I will feel sad. I will feel like whatever I need to feel and get it out because I don't want those emotions in me dictating anything. And,
Yeah.
I say this, you say this, it sounds so simple. And we both know that just like with anything, it takes practice. Nothing is easy I mean, I can't say nothing, but for most people, things are not easy on the first try.
Yeah.
You have to
God.
practice how to do these things. You have to learn what works for you. Maybe it's going outside into the woods and screaming for an hour and then you come back inside, which I would love
Yeah.
to do, but and then come back inside and like get it together and move forward. Allowing yourself to be mindful in the moment, whether it's not about being positive or negative, it's just being present in what is, and sometimes what is actually sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not negative to acknowledge that. It's not bad to acknowledge that. And it's also not bad to make a positive out of that if that's what helps you. But I think everything that you're saying and getting in tune with yourself and really focusing on our relationship internally with ourselves only helps us get further with our communication skills, with doctors, with advocating for ourselves, and just really learning what works for ourselves and what we need for ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
if you hadn't have learned how to do that, I know you've had a lot of other, you'd mentioned earlier, like with your GI issues, even though it's not gastroparesis, if you hadn't have advocated for yourself and done what you did, you wouldn't be able to fuel, eat, and take care of yourself in that aspect the way that you do. So all of
100%.
these things just keep translating into other areas of our lives that we really just can only benefit from. But I think we also talking about it, it sounds so easy, even coming out of my mouth. I'm like, yeah, this sounds so great. This is really easy. No, it's not. I
Yeah.
still struggle with it. Some days I'm like, I want to be mad about this for like 4 days, but that's not realistic. And it's not easy to do for all of us either. There's a lot of
Yeah.
days where life is just hard and it's difficult. And that's just acknowledging it, I think, is just like with anything, it's your first step into the right direction.
100%. And the other thing that relates to this too is that I think with chronic illness, we get so used to advocating for ourselves so much that we then start to build these habits around our symptoms. And these habits are things that maybe are keep like almost like a band-aid that are
Mhm.
helping keep our symptoms at bay, but they may not be the thing that are that's actually going to help us in the long term. And I think that's something that so many of us, chronic illness or not, we all have
Mhm.
habits that aren't serving us anymore, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the hardest part is sometimes feeling like you can't let go of something because it's been helping you. And then realizing that when you let that go and you remake these habits and you form habits that are actually helping you in the long term, even when you didn't realize that that habit was going to help you in the long term, and it was a really scary thing to break that
Hmm.
habit, like that is the thing that's gonna transform your whole
Yeah.
scenario, right? And I think that this is kind of one of those scenarios where some people, like, it's very much like a you grab onto the past because it's like a coping mechanism, or for some people it's like
Yeah.
number one thing I see is like with chronic pain, et cetera, or with GI stuff too all the time. And I was one of these people at one point. It's like I started to isolate myself and I didn't
Yeah.
want to leave the house. And I was like, this is really embarrassing. People don't get it. And it's not like I can just wear a sign on my head that says, like, I have GI issues, like things
Yeah.
like
Where's
that,
the
right?
bathroom?
Yeah. And so it's like, it's one of those things where you have to notice when you're starting to form these habits, and then also trust someone when they say, like, hey, like, this isn't serving you anymore. Why don't we try something else? And I think that that's the other thing is like, you can always go back to an old habit if you really want to. But
Hmm.
if you don't try something, you're never going to know if it's going to work or not, right? And
Yeah.
I think, the way with the healthcare system, the way it's set up, I think we're so, and just like society and healthcare, we're so willing to try a new medication. We're like, yes, this is going to fix all my problems. But really, at the end of the day, if we don't look at lifestyle or habits or nutrition or like movement patterns, the way we're talking to ourselves, like that is actually the foundation of all of your symptoms, right? And so
Yeah.
it's and like the progression, I would say, of your symptoms or the severity of your symptoms. And so
Hmm.
it's one of those things also where identifying the things that you're really scared to try or to let go of is actually a thing that you might actually need to do,
Yeah.
because it's the thing that's kind of keeping you stuck in this cycle that can then turn into like a chicken and an
Yeah.
egg cycle thing, right? I'm gonna
Yep.
Oops, sorry. There we go. Is that a little better with the sun? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you're good. It's okay. You can't help where the sun is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it is difficult. And I think like a lot of like for me, the more conversations I've had about like how I'm feeling about something, or even here talking with people like you, and I'm like, I get off, like I finish it and I'm like, huh. Interesting. Like something that like every single episode, somebody says something that I sit there afterwards and I'm like, yeah, they were really talking to me. Like I felt that, and that's one of those things where you're right. We want a quick answer, which why wouldn't we? We wouldn't like if you are offered this medication, it says, hey, this will solve all your problems. You don't have to do any work. You just have to take this at 8 a.m. exactly every single day for the rest of your life. Sign me up. Like, okay, I don't have to do anything but this.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you choose that? So when something like that is presented to you, that's where we're going to go. But if
Yeah.
someone says, hey, if you do your, reflections daily, really try to learn about food and add what's, healthy for you and understand how food works in the body and do these different exercises, it's not typical. Like maybe it's not running, maybe it's somatic breathing,
Yep.
maybe it is different types of Pilates or just stretching or chair yoga or
Mhm.
strength training or cycling. There's all of these different options, but all of them contain steps that we have to take, and the outcome or the side effects to these are not going to be immediate. Why would you choose that over the easy thing? And I
Yeah.
know what I know now, I would choose the hard thing because I know that the hard thing works. But
Yep.
not everybody knows that. That's not how things are presented. And sometimes that holistic view where, like I have medications that I literally cannot survive without.
Right.
I can positive mindset myself to death and it's still without that medication, like that positive mindset ain't going to do anything. It's
100%.
It's not going to do it. But that's why we need to have that holistic point of view of really focusing in on controlling what we can
Mhm.
and using other things like medications as tools to help us get forward, to help us move forward, and to be able to achieve the things that we want to achieve. And, you are a huge example of that, of combining all of those things and taking what happened to you, what you learned, and an attitude of, I want to do something with this. I don't want this to do something with me. Like,
Yeah.
look what you've been able to accomplish. And it's great. And, I know I hope that you're so proud of yourself because
Aw.
you have done such amazing things. And I'm so glad that we had connected, because when I saw what you were doing and then seeing running and all of the other aspects, I'm like, there's something special here. And I hope that
Aw.
you feel that and you see that with yourself too. And I hope everybody listening will feel that from you, because I know that I do. So
Aw. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. And
yeah.
I do want to say, like, being able to be proud of yourself is also a skill that everyone needs to
Yes.
learn. We are all so hard on ourselves. Like, it is really hard, one, to take compliments from people, and two, to be able to be like, you know
Yeah.
what? Pop off. You did a really good job,
Yeah.
Izzy. And like, I think that's something that I think everyone should also take from this podcast too, is like, give your body a hug. Like, give your
Yeah.
body like so much love, because even on the days where you feel like it's failing you, it is still trying to fight for you, right? Like, it
Yes.
is. And so,
Yeah. It shows
yeah.
up every single day, like on empty, after we've beaten it to death. We haven't
Mhm.
been nice to it. We talked shit to it.
Mhm.
It hurts. It's not happy. It shows up.
Yeah.
So the best thing that we can do is show up for it, because it keeps showing up for us. And again, it's that
100%.
mindset. Looking at it a little bit differently can change so much more than we think. Our minds really do have so much more power in this situation than we realize, for all the good in the world. It's that
Yeah.
with great power comes great responsibility,
Yes.
situation where it's true. It really
Yeah.
is. All that can be done for good, or you know, it could harm us too. So it's a great
Yeah.
balance to recognize when we're in what situation and have the tools and or the people, support,
Yeah.
organizations, maybe a habit like running to
Yeah.
help get you back into that positive mindset. So
100%. And also having a support system, having someone to be there for you 24/7 to hold your hand, even if they don't know exactly what it is that you're going through, or maybe they do know exactly what it is that you're going through. Like, that is also something that I wish I had on my journey when I was going through it, because I had to figure it out
yeah.
all alone. But um, I wish there was someone like that for me. And now I hope get to be that person for some of the people listening to this podcast. And also, I know all my clients, they always are telling me, Izzy, it's so great that I can just tell you anything and like you just get it and I don't have to explain it to you. And I'm like,
hmm
no, I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Those relationships are crucial to
Uh-huh.
survival, I think. And, not having to explain everything where I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it today. I don't feel good. And someone's just like, okay, well, let me know if you need anything. And I'm like, but I had so much to tell you to explain why. And it's like, you don't need to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's so that's so great. Thank you for,
Yeah.
leaving that space for me to just be however it is that I need to be. So
100%. Couldn't have said it better.
well, thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing so much of your story. I know we didn't get to touch on everything, so um but
I'll be
that's our
back.
fault. That's our fault for talking too much. And
Oh.
we would love to have you back to talk about the rest of your story too, anytime that you're willing.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I love being on the podcast.
All right.